I would like to welcome everybody to the 5,568th meeting of the Rotary Club of Chicago. Rotary One is now in session. And as always, we start our meeting with the thought of the day, and I have the privilege of passing the floor over to our board member and longtime International Service Committee co-chair and accountant extraordinaire, Ms. Betsy Meisenheimer. Betsy, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Eric. As Eric and I were discussing earlier, we are in Michigan, and I've been doing a lot of gardening lately, and it's getting everything and ready for the season. We have about an acre of land here that's hilly. It's mostly shaded. It has pretty poor soil, and it's on a clay base, which if any gardeners in the crowd know, it's not a great conditions. It was fairly nicely landscaped when we bought our property about 7 years ago, but it had been neglected, and it's taken some effort to revive it. It's a nice garden now, but as Rudyard Kipling said, gardens are not made by singing, "Oh, how beautiful," and then go sitting in the shade. They require a lot of effort to remain beautiful and to even flourish. And I've come to think of our garden as a metaphor for some of the service work that we do at Rotary. Our long-term goal is for our garden to be more or less self-sustaining and to require less and less care from us. To do this, we've studied the yard, its peculiarities, identified the problem areas, and developed a flexible long-term plan to address the issues. We've also, of course, consulted with some experts along the way and, have incorporated a lot of their wonderful advice into what we've been doing. So the last few years, we've been working on improving the soil, planting perennial shrubs and trees that can thrive in our clay conditions, and shade. And we have shade because we're in the woods. So it's been a gradual process over the last few years. We haven't done all the work ourselves. We do get some help with the heavy stuff. Our plantings are now holding the soil in place so it doesn't wash away. They're starting to grow closer together. It requires a lot less mulch than it used to. Plus, the closeness keeps the weeds from coming up. And that's probably the best part of this process, is it keeps the weeds from coming out and reduces the work we have to do. And that leaves time for our other hobby, which is golf. However, like other gardens, ours is never going to be finished. Some things don't work. We have to redo them. And everything is always a work in process. And this is somewhat similar to what we do in Rotary. Over the last couple of years, our service committees have all developed strategic plans to help us understand what we want to accomplish over the next few years. We do our homework to figure out what problems we want to tackle and then develop some plans to do so, often working with the professionals to get some advice on that. An example is our work that the International Services Committee has been doing over the last year. We recognize the need in South America for improved health care. We work with a partner, Solidarity Bridge, whom we had done a successful project with a couple of years ago, as well as the Rotary clubs down in Bolivia where Solidarity Bridge operates. We, along with the two partners, we identified the need for state-of-the-art medical equipment at 5 hospitals in different parts of Bolivia. And we developed some plans together to get those projects moving. The Bolivian clubs wrote the proposals for the projects. Solidarity Bridge added their expertise on writing the technical parts of the projects and also in getting it implemented. We volunteered to do the fundraising and being support for coaching the folks on writing the projects. Once the equipment gets purchased, Solidarity Bridge is going to provide their expertise in managing and financing medical missions. It will train the folks in Bolivia on how to use the equipment, how to treat patients with it, and assure that this is a sustainable project that will keep giving over the course of the years. So far this year, we've been able to meet our goal, which was to get 3 of the projects underway this year. We saved 2 for next year. But 2 have been funded completely, and the equipment is being purchased for the projects. A third has been submitted to Rotary International for approval, and hopefully we'll get the approval soon so that the equipment can be purchased. Once all of the equipment gets installed, Solidarity Bridge will take over and do the training with the medical missions. And we'll be following these projects for the next few years and making sure that they're doing what we want them to do. And that's measuring the impact on clients and on client outcome for the projects. And this is really what we're looking at in a garden. You know, we come up with issues, we fix them, it informs what we plan to do in the future, and then we can move on. We're never going to be finished with these projects, just like a garden's never finished, because there's always more need, but at least we can learn from what we've been doing. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you very much, Betsy. I think that is a good metaphor. I will say that we should all be grateful that I am better at leading a service organization than I am at gardening. So moving to the next point of business, I would like to put out a question that we put out last week. This is for our members only. It's about meeting in person. We are looking at a couple of in-person meetings in June, and in particular, I want to ask you about Marga's June 29th installation. So Tamara is going to put a link into the chat box. If you did not answer this question last week, please answer it this week. And again, this is for our members only, so please do respond to that survey. One of our signature programs here locally, you heard about a lot of our international service through Betsy's Thought of the Day. One of our signature programs here in Chicago has always been our Job One program, focusing on Chicago high school students and giving them job skills training and paid internships. Alita, could you give us an update on where we're at right now in Job One and what you need from us as a club?
Hello, everyone. Thanks for being here today. Job One has completed all of our trainings with our students to get us ready for the summer. All that is left is our job fair, and this is where we need you. We have 25 wonderful students that have completed our pre-training and employee training to be ready to work with you in the most professional manner possible. We just need jobs. We are a couple of jobs short, and if you all would love to be a part, we would really appreciate it, and so would our students. And here's a great video to show you what an impact having one of our students could have.
Hello, my name is Romel Shaw. I participated in Rotary 2017. My summer about to go into my freshman year of college. It was a great opportunity, I think, for me to get real life work experience, because before then I never really worked a job, and then this showed me or gave me like a view or a taste of how life after college or life in college would be of working a real job. Another thing that Rotary also helped me out with was my resume. First thing, it gave me something to put on my resume saying that I worked at IIT, and they helped me write a decent resume that was well written and could help so that I could use this resume and other things like jobs outside of school. I could use my resume for that to apply for those as well. And they also taught me work etiquette and like mock interviews and how to interview in that process. So the work etiquette, make sure I dress the proper way and just overall be more confident in interviews, not to be scared about the outcome or anything. Just be yourself. And if they like you, they like you. I got an internship now outside of Rotary that Rotary probably helped me get this internship that I got right now. And it's a lot of good things that Rotary does with people.
That was one of our graduating students from 3 years ago, and now he is at college. He has a job, an internship, and he was elected president of his fraternity group, and he also runs their accounting department, which his mother tells me he's very on point about and always implements the 4-way test when when they ask for money from him. So help us be a part of shaping the future of our communities and our future Rotarians that are out there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alita. Alita is our Job 1 committee chair as well as our president designee. And speaking of future presidents, Marga Hugo, would you tell us how we pay for such great programs like Job 1?
Well, this is what everybody likes to hear, but you know what? I'll say it again. You know by now, members and guests, that we have 2 foundations, and they are the fuel that allow us that allows us to do all the projects that we do, both locally and internationally. You would like to know, as Betsy has expressed in her thought of the day, that, for example, in the global grants that we have had approved, we're talking about almost $200,000 in funds. Well, 40% of those funds came from the Rotary Foundation. Also, we have funds that help us with other projects that come from the Rotary One Foundation. So here's my invitation to ask you to be a part of both of them. Any contribution is good. As you know, the more you can share with us, the better. But I tell you where we are, in case you haven't looked at the chart, the graphic in the gyrator. Our goal for the Rotary One Foundation this year is $60,000, and we're short only $13,766. And I know that all of us, a little, contributing a little bit, we can get there. We have a lot of exciting plans for next year, so we need your support. For the Rotary One Foundation, well, our goal is $15,000, and we only need $3,240. So you can do it. You can help us be a part of it, and because this foundation, we're all together in this. And the work that we do really makes a very visible difference. So thank you so much, Eric, and I look forward to hearing from all of you.
Thank you very much, Marga, and thanks for your great work on that. And of course, thanks to all of our members and guests who have contributed to that over the recent months. And with that, it is time to move into our program. A reminder, again, keep yourself on mute. If you have questions, do pop them into the chat box. But with that, I am going to pass the floor over to our program's co-chair, Mr. David Hirsch. David, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Eric. It's my privilege to introduce today's featured speaker, Maria Woltjen. She is the executive director and founder of the Young Center for Immigrant Children's Rights. The Young Center's primary work is to advocate for the best interest and safety and well-being of unaccompanied and separated immigrant children. As part of this work, the Young Center serves as a child advocate, which is the best interest guardian ad litem for trafficking victims and unaccompanied immigrant children pursuant to the Wilberforce Trafficking Victim Protection Reauthorization Act, that's a mouthful, of 2008. Her focus is on reforming the immigration system to incorporate the best interests standard and developing a dedicated immigration justice system for children. The Young Center operates in numerous locations headquartered here in Chicago, including Houston, New York, San Antonio, Phoenix, LA, and Washington, DC. I believe there's about 70 lawyers in total that do the work. Maria took her law degree from Loyola Law School. Prior to the Young Center, she was the director of children's advocacy, where she focused on juvenile justice, education, and health. She's received numerous awards for the work that she does. I'll name a handful: the American Red Cross Global Citizenship Award, Chicago Magazine Chicago Man of the Year, Loyola University's Damon Award, UNICEF Chicago Humanitarian Award, and the American Constitution Society Ruth Goldman Award. She and her husband, a New York Times bestselling author, Alex Kotlowitz, have 2 adult children, and they live here in Chicago. Maria, it's really my pleasure to introduce you today on this important topic of immigration and specifically the children that are impacted by immigration. Thank you for being with us.
Well, thank you so much, David, for that warm welcome. And thank you to both you and Eric for inviting me here today. I really appreciate it. So I'm going to talk about, I'm going to give you a brief background on the Young Center and our 18 years working with unaccompanied and separated kids. And then I'm going to give you some background about the kids who are arriving today and how that compares to the year we started the program in 2004. And then lastly, I'm going to identify some challenges for kids who are in immigration custody and offer some proposed solutions. So at the Young Center, we have some slides. So we're at slide 2, and thank you for doing that. I'm so bad at this. So what we do at the Young Center is we advocate for the best interests of unaccompanied and separated kids. Our staff are lawyers, social workers, volunteer coordinators, and case support specialists who are like paralegals. And we get appointed by the Department of Health and Human Services to serve as child advocate for individual kids. And our role, and all of these kids are in deportation proceedings, and our role is advocating for best interests. So we recruit bilingual volunteers, and their job is to go into the shelters and meet with the kids one-on-one and learn their stories. We don't go in with a pad of paper or an intake form. Our volunteers just spend time with the kids, and over time, learn their stories, which are often hold the key to whether they might be eligible for some sort of protection. And then we also learn what they want. Some kids are sent here. They could be sent by traffickers. They could be sent here to be exploited. Some kids have been told to tell a certain story, but it's not the reality of what happened to them. And so really we're there to figure out what these kids want. And we've seen kids who don't even want to be here. They want to go back to their home countries. And so then we on staff, the lawyers and social workers, take that information and develop our strategy. And I also wanted to mention that in addition to our direct service work, we have a policy team in Washington, D.C., and we do a lot of work both on the Hill and primarily with the federal agencies, because there are 4 agencies involved with these kids: Department of State, Department of Justice, Health and Human Services, and then, of course, Department of Homeland Security. So we really do a lot with all of these different agencies. And a lot of what we do is while the kids are in custody, so getting these kids released to family. One of the benevolent aspects of our immigration system is that kids, it's been recognized that being in custody, also called detention, is not healthy for kids. So the government will release children to family members, parents, aunts, uncles, grandparents, family friends. And this does not mean the kids have permission to stay. It means that they can live with family members while they're going through these proceedings. So we do a lot of advocacy on getting kids released to family, and then preventing their transfer to adult detention. And then, of course, the main goal is securing permanent protection through our best interest recommendations submitted to immigration judges. So if you can go to the next slide. So the things that I think are really important to know before I continue are that, first of all, in this immigration system, the child has the burden of proof, which means the government doesn't have to show this kid should be deported. The child has the burden of showing that they should not be deported. And kids are not provided with attorneys at government expense. It's up to either nonprofit organizations to raise the funds to represent the kids, or for the kids and their families to find an attorney. So the reality is that about 50% of these kids go unrepresented. And honestly, you cannot, it's almost impossible to win an immigration case without an immigration lawyer. That goes for adults too. And lastly, kind of the irony of what we do is our job is best interest, but there's no best interest standard in the law when it comes to immigrant children. And that is what we've been setting out to change over the last 18 years. Our goal has really been to incorporate child welfare standards into the immigration system, and to develop a system that was built for kids. Right now, the system that kids go through is exactly the same system as adults. And it's kind of like, for those of you from Chicago or who know the history, it's kind of like the pre-Jane Addams days, where kids and adults were in court together, and it was exactly the same proceeding. So we have a theory of change, which is first putting this into practice. And so I started this program in 2008. I was on my own for 4 years, and then got invited to join the University of Chicago Law School, and then we started to grow. But there was no law back then, no regulation, but I started here in Chicago, and I had no official capacity, but I was fortunate enough that everyone in the system here in Chicago let me go forward, even if I didn't have official capacity. And so we were able to start putting this idea in practice. And I didn't create this from nothing. Most European countries have a best interest standard. They have in Europe, they're called guardians. And the role that we're playing is very similar. So we put this into practice by going in front of immigration judges, asylum officers, and also immigration officials. And we submit best interest recommendations. They are law-based. We cite to the Convention on the Rights of the Child, and then also to the state best interest law of whatever state the child is in. And I will just want to remind everyone that all 50 states have best interest laws and standards that require judges or decision makers to consider that child's best interests before finalizing a decision. So putting it into practice, we put that report in a judge's hand. He's got a 7-year-old child in front of him. Of course, that report is going to help that child, but also will educate that judge so that the next time they have a child in front of them, they're going to ask for best interest recommendation or an advocate. And then step 2 is to get our work written into agency policy. We've gone really far with that. And then last is getting a best interest standard into the law. And actually, the Senate bill pending right now would require consideration of children's best interest when they arrive at the border. It's only a bill. It is not law, of course. So we have made tremendous progress since 2004, which is so long ago. Back then, of course, judges didn't know what best interest was. They didn't know what to do with it. They didn't know what a child advocate was. Fortunately, the judge here in Chicago, even in 2004, would allow us to speak on the record. And then 4 years later, in 2008, we got Congress, and it was in the waning days of the Bush administration, signed into law a provision providing that child advocates have the authority to advocate for best interests. There's still not a standard in the law. We had one office in Chicago back then. There was one facility with 70 kids, and that was it. And so because of our work and our advocate team today, 18 years later, immigration judges ask for child advocates to be appointed. They ask for best interest recommendations, especially in the most complicated cases. And my theory is, even though these judges are appointed by Department of Justice, and they're not they're not true judges. They're judges, but they are administrative judges. But they care, and they're either parents or grandparents or aunts or uncles, and when they have a 7-year-old or a 10-year-old or a 16-year-old in front of them, at least my theory is that many of them, they want to know what's going to happen if they sign this order. Where's this kid going? Do they have parents in home country? Are they going to be safe? And that's the information that we put into their hands. Can you go to the next slide? So most of the kids today are coming from Central America, Honduras, Guatemala, El Salvador, and the number of girls has increased and the ages of the kids has also decreased over the last number of years. I get asked all the time, why are these kids coming? And the reasons are often very tangled. These 3 countries have amongst the world's highest homicide rates. And the kids arriving today tell us that they have witnessed family members being murdered, and they are very traumatized. And of course, their parents fear for their lives. We talk to parents who want to protect their kids from being recruited by the gangs. And yes, there are police in these countries, but oftentimes the police are in cahoots with the very same gangs and they can't offer any protection. Child welfare, there are child welfare departments in these countries, but if we think our child welfare programs here in the US are under stress, you can only imagine there. So a lot of times we get kids who've been abused and they can't find anyone to help, so they travel to the US. Climate change is also playing a role right now. The fluctuations in the weather have wiped out entire harvests and leaving already struggling families destitute. And then, of course, there's extreme poverty. So right now, though, you've seen a massive increase in kids. And if you can go to the next slide, and you've read about it in the news. Sorry, this is just a map of the areas in these 3 countries where all of this violence is occurring. And yeah, if you can go to the next slide. So this is just a graph of the numbers of kids. And as you can see, the first years I was doing this work, it was 8,000 kids a year. And then the numbers started increasing. In 2013, they doubled. 2014 doubled. Homeland Security told us this would happen. Nobody believed that we would see, 68,000 children coming in 1 year. And then the numbers dropped last year. Why did they drop? Because the previous administration closed the border and closed the border even to children, even though trucks were allowed through tourists, visitors. The government closed the border to immigrant kids, and instead it was called expulsion. But what the government did was put these kids on planes and flew them right back to their home countries. No questions asked. And no doubt these kids were being sent back occasionally, sometimes many kids sent back to danger, or they just had the kids walk back across the bridge to Mexico. And it was about 20,000 kids who were turned away during that period of time. And, the reason given was COVID, but it was a violation of federal law. There's federal law that requires that if a child arrives at our border from a non-contiguous country, we have an obligation to take that child in, and that child has the opportunity to go in front of a judge. So in part, this is why we are seeing so many kids coming right now. And then other kids are being turned back to Mexico. So we're seeing some of those kids. And, these kids, and then also just the situation in these countries is so much worse. There have been the hurricanes in Honduras, and that is also causing kids to come, or families to send their kids. So if you can go to the next slide. Another reason we're seeing a lot of kids is there was also a policy under the previous administration. It was called the Remain in Mexico policy. And what that meant was that if people, including families, came to the border to apply for protection, they filled out the application and then they were sent back over the border. We made a trip to the border to this encampment a year ago, January, and there's no international agency running this camp. It's a refugee camp, essentially. No running water, no latrines, and families very worried about their kids. Moms really worried about their kids because the gangs drive through these encampments at night and threaten the girls. And so if you can go to the next slide. And so a lot of the families there who we met with were trying to decide, do I keep my child here with me where it's very, very dangerous, or do I send my child over to the US? And actually in this one camp, there was a woman who was telling people to send their kids and telling them the kids would get out of custody in a couple of weeks. And she was telling them all kinds of information that was absolutely false. So we went down with our staff, not to give any advice. We gave no advice, but we did what's called a charla, which is a presentation, and all the parents in the camp came, and all we did was walk people through, this is what would happen to your child if they came across the bridge and were taken into custody, just so that the parents know, because kids are taken into custody. It may be that parent is never, ever going to get into the U.S. again. Kids could end up in circumstances where they don't go back. And, we just wanted these parents to know, if they were making this decision, what it is that would happen to their children. And it really is a hard decision for these parents who don't have enough food in the camps and are really worried about their kids' health. And then we also turn this into a video, which is shared via WhatsApp. It was called Remain in Mexico, has been ended under the current administration. And some of the families are being allowed in if they've been processed, if they've been they're called tent courts on the border. Again, I want to reiterate, these families, they don't have lawyers, and it's been really, really difficult to make their cases. There have been a handful of lawyers who have gone down there to do what they can to help and to provide some legal advice, but it has been quite challenging for a lot of the families down there, even if they do have a very strong claim to be able to to get permission to enter. We advocated for some of the families. We did have some success, especially with families whose children were medically fragile. So the kids were here, and we were able to get the parents paroled into the United States to be with their children if they had to have surgery or something else. So do you want to go to the next slide? So challenges that we're working on right now, the government, because so many kids are coming, the government is putting the kids in very large facilities. I visited one of the facilities. I went down to Texas a few weeks ago, and it's huge. It holds 1,500 children, and they were still building onto it at the time. I will say they were doing a good job. They had volunteers from other federal agencies, so that was very interesting to me. The woman who gave us the tour around the facility was from National Institute of Health. And I think in some ways the beauty of that, or the benefit of that really, is that people outside of our system get to see what this looks like. And a lot of times people are just shocked that this is how it all works. Because a lot of us who've been doing this work for so long, we get inured to everything that's happening, and it's no longer shocking. We have been working with the government, this administration is completely different. The White House reaches out to us on, probably a couple times a week. Homeland Security reaches out to us for help. They want our ideas. They want our proposals. And so it's been much better. And I will say, given the numbers of kids who are coming in right now, they are doing the best that they can. But we are working with the government to try to ensure that even after these high numbers slow down, kids are put in smaller facilities, not facilities that hold 250 kids. We did away with that probably a decade ago or longer in our child welfare system. We don't put kids in big institutions. It's government custody. It is protective custody, we call it, but it is government custody. And, the kids, as I said, do have to go in front of an immigration judge. This is a drawing done by one of the kids and oftentimes don't have attorneys. I will say I've been an attorney. It's 30 something years now. And when I go into a courtroom where I don't know the judge, I'm nervous. So you can only imagine a kid walking into that building, finding the courtroom, not speaking English, and really not knowing what to do. It's very, very difficult. And the last is no best interest of the child standard, but we are really working to change that. If you can go to the next slide, thanks. So I'm just going to mention a couple of these. The first one is family separation. I'm sure you all knew about the zero tolerance policy and family separation. We started seeing that actually in 2017 because we have offices in 8 parts of the country. We kind of have a bird's eye view, and all of a sudden we started seeing little kids taken from their parents. And then the government announced that they were applying this to all families. Children would be taken away from all families. And it was really an outcry. It was certainly work from all of the advocates, but it was also a public outcry about that ended that policy. But one of the things that we're focused on right now is preventing separation of kids who arrive with another family member. So a girl who arrives with her older brother, a child who arrives with his aunt, a child who arrives with their grandmother. Right now, they are being separated. And what that does, that means these kids have to go into government custody in the US. The adult is sent to adult detention. They may be deported. And once that kid is in government custody, it can take months to get them reunified. So the government is very interested in doing this because it's about 10% of the kids come with a family member who's not their parents. And so they want to find a way too, because it would reduce the number of kids who are coming into government custody, and it would also reduce the trauma to these kids. And again, as I said, this administration and the people who we're talking to right now, they really want to make change. Converting these big facilities to family-based homes. And then for us, the most important thing is getting best interest considered in every decision, the way it's done in our child welfare systems. And lastly, to see an end to repatriation to unsafe situations. So, right now we only serve kids with the most complicated cases. But our goal is that judge making that decision would have to know, where's this kid going? Who do they have to return to? Are there indicators they won't be safe or will be homeless before making a decision like that? So I will wrap up, and I'm happy to take any questions that people have.
Well, thank you very much, Maria, for that. I think we do have a few questions here. First question goes back to something that you were talking about earlier about connecting children with family members that may be in the U.S. And the question was simply, how do they find those family members?
Right. Sure. So most of the kids arrive with a phone number. Oftentimes it's on a little scrap of paper. a phone number and a name, because these kids had a destination and someone to go. A lot of the kids have a place to go. So everyone, when the minute the kids arrive in those facilities, the people working there, they have case managers who talk to the kids, and then they vet the relatives. Now, if it's a parent, they're able to move pretty quickly to get the kids released to their parents. I will say, once upon a time, it took 3 to 6 months to get kids reunified with families, and that time has decreased. So they find the family members, and the family has to prove the relationship. They have to prove that they can actually care for the child. It's mainly making sure that these are the relatives and then vetting them. They have to go through a background check. They have to go through a child abuse and neglect check before the kids can be released to them. So it's very similar, if it's not a parent, to kids who are taken into custody by a state child welfare system. And let's say there are 5 relatives who come forward and say, I can take care of my niece. They're going to vet them first before they release the child to that family member. And, just in terms of the parents, a lot of these families, the parents came here to earn money to send back to their children. And so right now they're worried for their children's safety and they send for them. But there certainly are lots of cases where the whole family is in a country like this, and they're sending their kids because they're afraid of their safety. And we also have cases certainly where kids, they just pick up and go, and they're completely on their own and with no one here.
Yeah, that makes sense. We have a question from David. He says immigration seems to be a highly politicized issue. So is there something that can be done to make this more bipartisan, some common ground here?
Sure. I mean, I think, I don't have the answers to some of the bigger immigration questions. I really don't. But for me in doing this work, because it's children and because we're talking about children's safety, we have been able to get bipartisan support. So there was bipartisan support in 2008 for the law that gave official capacity for child advocates. And it was the main senator was Senator Grassley working with Senator Feinstein. I think today, it is more difficult. But I think for me, my job is easy. It's making the argument that, I live in uptown in Chicago, and if a kid, runs up to my front door and knocks, and they're afraid, they don't know what to do. I'm not going to say, okay, go away. I'm going to invite that child into my home and figure out where they need to go. Call child welfare, call the police and figure out where they need to go. And to me, it's the same. If a child lands on our doorstep at the border, we have to figure out where they need to go to be safe before we just send them back. So I feel like I have an easier job of it. For some kids, it's better for them to be back in home country. We had one case involving a boy. I think he was 7 years old, and he was sent here. He was in custody for about 4 months. And the story was that his mom had sent him to surprise the dad, even though the two were estranged. And the story didn't add up. And so people were concerned about either sending him to the dad, and the boy kept wavering about what he wanted. So we had a social worker go and visit the mom in home country. And what she found out was, first of all, the home had an entire wall dedicated to her son with report cards, artwork, photographs. And this mom wanted her son back. And what had happened was the father's henchmen in this country had threatened her with violence if she didn't send her son to be with his father. And so with that information in hand, we told the judge, it is safe for this boy to go back to home country, which is where he belongs. And So our argument is we need to do that. These are children, and we need to figure out where they're going and where they're going to be safe. So it's easier for me. I have to deal with those big immigration questions, which are, of course, very polarized. They have been, and they continue to be. But when it comes to kids, I feel like I have a much easier argument, and it's easier to get bipartisan support in the House and the Senate when it comes to children.
That's a really interesting perspective, and that's an unbelievable story as well. Mm-hmm. I think that's well, maybe that's a great way to end our presentation here today. I think we're out of time on questions, but I want to thank you so much for spending your afternoon with us, and we have a small token, very small token of appreciation here that we're going to send in the mail to you. But like all things we do, we're trying to make an impact in our community.
Sure.
And so these candles support an organization called Bright Endeavors. Uh-huh. And their mission is to empower young moms by providing transitional jobs and professional skills training. So this is helping those moms, it's helping their kids, and it's helping the communities. So I hope you enjoy the candle and think of us when you use it.
Well, thank you so much. And it looks like you're just doing amazing things with all of the projects you're supporting. So congratulations to you. I'm so glad that you are out in our community here in Chicago supporting what you can. So thanks so much. And thanks for giving me time to speak to you all. I appreciate it.
It's our pleasure. It's very enlightening. And by the way, we have another 25 minutes in our meeting. You are welcome to hang out with us as long as you like. If you're busy with other things, also, nobody will be offended if you need to drop off.
Thank you for the invitation, but I think I do have to run. But thanks so much. I appreciate it.
You bet. We hope to see you back again sometime soon.
Okay, thanks. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye. Bye. Well, I hope you all learned a lot there. I think I certainly did. That was a very interesting presentation. And I think she makes a very good point about, that common ground being children, right? I think that's a very poignant point. So one of the positive things that has happened with our club during the pandemic is, despite the challenges of the last 14 months, we have continued to grow. And we have our newest new member induction right now. And with that, I'm going to pass the floor over to our membership chair, Laura Inns. Laura, the floor is yours.
Good morning. I'm sorry, I was multitasking there, Eric, so I wasn't ready. Hold on 1 second while Can you come back to me for a second?
Sure. We can do that. Yeah, no problem. The other thing we're going to do is about 5 minutes. So you're going to have about 5 minutes. Okay. Very good. Very good. So another great thing besides new member inductions is also the great service work that this organization continues to do with Job One, for example, with the Bolivia projects that you've heard about. But there's another project that we want to be able to spotlight here. And so we're going to do our usual service spotlight, but I am going to pass the floor first to Marga Hugo, our former international service co-chair, who's going to introduce the segment and our speaker in this segment today. Marga, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Eric. Yes, I am delighted to introduce to you Ale Aguilar. And she's going to be talking to us about her gym, Therapeutic Sensory Gym. We at the International Services Committee have heard about it for a long time, and she was, this project was her baby as well. So share with me, I would like to congratulate Ali and listen to how she made it happen. This was a reverse global grant. She's going to tell you what that is about. And now I'm going to let Ali tell us the story.
Thank you, Marga. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak to you today. And I just want to share with you that this is my second global grant. The first one was about medical equipment being sent to Mexico. And about 3 years ago, I started this project. Yes, Marga said a long time. And sometimes a global grant can take a very long, long time, including 1 year of a pandemic, which we all know what it's all about. But I am happy to be here to tell you and to report back to you and just to let you know that the community in South Chicago is very, very thankful for all the support that Rotary One and the foundation have given to us and to this grant. So the global grant initiated when Pedro Ceballos was the district governor. And I reached out to him and I say, hey, Pedro, I know the global grants are doing a lot of good work all over the world, but how about something that we can do in our own city? And he was starting with this idea of having more projects here in Chicago. And he said, you know what? Let's go ahead and do it. Let's talk about it. Connect with Marga, connect with Pat Merriweather. And he connected me with many, many key people that just assisted and gave me their expertise. So it took a very long time. I wrote the grant and I reached out to a lot of people. Initially, they denied it because they said, no, Rotary doesn't fund playgrounds. And I said, well, this is not a playground. This is a therapeutic sensory gym, which the difference lies in the fact that there will be physical therapies, occupational therapies, and speech therapies providing under consultation services for children with special needs, children with different disabilities like Rett syndrome, autism, Down syndrome, ADHD, and many other disabilities that children are facing. And sadly, in the south side of Chicago, there is not a lot of services for these kids. And not even in the school system. Parents have to fight the CPS in order to get services and therapy services in their IEPs, which is the document that enables them to receive additional services other than their regular school curriculum. And this dream came to the idea of and a reality now that it will provide services for these children in their own community. They don't have to go all the way to River Forest or some other places in the suburbs that they have to commute sometimes over an hour to get maybe 30 or 45 minutes or therapy. So now they can just go in their backyard in the south side of Chicago, where it's an area that is lacking a lot of support and services. This place is amazing, and I am thankful for Rotary One to contributing and being a part of this project. So I would like to invite all of you to come and see the place for yourself. If you want to visit any day, just let me know. We can definitely plan a visit, a walkthrough for you to see where your money was spent. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ale. Thanks for that overview. And thanks for having me out there on Saturday as part of the ribbon cutting. I can say that I've seen the facility. It's very cool. It's very sort of multimedia focused, right? It's not just the visual. It's not just what you saw in some of those photos, but there's interactive video that's displayed on the floor, for example, that you can touch. There's sound. The lighting is different. It's really amazing. So I do encourage folks to take up Ale on that offer. And Ale, if you want to stick around at the until the end of the meeting, and that way, if folks want to ask some questions, they can do that. If you have time. If you don't, that's quite all right.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Okay,
I'll be
very
here.
good. All right,
Yeah.
awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, so let's get this new member inducted, shall we, Laura?
Yes, thank you so much for your understanding, everybody. Today, our new member to induct is Gregor, and we'll hear about him in just a few minutes. But here we go. Gregor, it is my great pleasure on behalf of the Board of Directors and members of the Rotary Club of Chicago to welcome you, Gregor, as a member of Rotary One. We welcome you not only for the fine fellowship that we shall share, but also for your talents, abilities, and enthusiasm that will help us carry out our many projects to make our community, country, and the world a better place in which to live. Now, Rotary is not a political organization, but all Rotarians are vitally concerned with everything pertaining to good citizenship and the election of good men and women to public office. Rotary is not a charitable organization, yet its activities exemplify the charity and the sacrifices that one should expect from people who believe that they have a responsibility to help others. Rotary is not a religious organization, but it is built on those eternal principles that have served as the moral compass for people throughout the ages. So what is Rotary? It's an organization of business and professional people pledged to upholding the highest professional standards. Rotarians believe that worldwide fellowship and international peace can be achieved when business people unite under the banner of service. So, Gregor, you have been chosen for membership in the Rotary Club of Chicago because your fellow Rotarians believe you to be a leader in your profession and because you manifest the intelligence and commitment of heart that fit you to interpret and impart the message of Rotary. You are a representative of your profession in this club, and any information of an educational value pertaining to your profession must naturally come to us through you. At the same time, you become an ambassador from us to your profession, and we rely on you to carry the principles and ideals of service, which we inspire to those who share your professional activity. The community will know and judge Rotary by your embodiment of it in character and service. And we accept you as a member because we know our principles and organization will be safe in your keeping. We also expect you to give us the inspiration that will help us to become better Rotarians. And it is with this hope that we welcome you as our newest member of the Rotary Club of Chicago. Thank you. And with that, if you would please go ahead and unmute yourself.
Okay.
I want you to introduce yourself to the club.
Yes. So first and foremost, thank you very much for the kind words and the introduction to the club. I also have to apologize that my cam here is not working since yesterday, but I will get it fixed and hopefully we'll see. I mean, I think I saw a few of you already during other events, but hopefully at some day in person. Just a little background about myself. I'm here in Chicago since the end of 2012. Was working the whole time for the company who's mentioned on the slide, PricewaterhouseCoopers, PwC. Was traveling quite a bit in my first 3 years, I would say. Originally, I guess everybody can hear that. I have an accent. I'm from Germany. Same as Matthias and Timo, which I know very well. And they introduced me to the club, and I was very interested and share the same passion and ideas about the everything what you said before, and want to be actively engaged in the club. And since last year, since everybody was done from home, I realized how much more time I have if I'm not traveling that much. And so with this said, PwC already laid out a plan where in the future, the travel activities will be limited. So I think I have more time on my hands, and I wanted to give back in any way possible. If it's through what I learned through my job, or if it's in other services, I'm open, and I'm looking forward to meet you in person.
Thank you so much, Gregor. We are honored that you chose us as the means to use your time. And so welcome to the club, and we'll turn it back over to you, Eric.
Oh, thank you so much, Laura. And I'll repeat what Laura said. Welcome, Gregor. And we will certainly look forward to seeing you in person soon. And we will find ways to get you engaged right away. Don't you worry about it. I'll be reaching out to you to schedule a call soon.
Yeah, I hope so, Eric. Would be great to meet in person first and foremost. And the minute you have something, keep me in mind.
All right, very good. That's the kind of spirit I like to hear. Very good. So we're a little bit short on time with the great segments that we've enjoyed here so far today. So I am going to skip over the guest introductions for today, although a few of you had a chance to introduce yourselves at the beginning of the meeting. If you do want to introduce yourself to me and the others, do feel free to hang out after the end of the meeting at 1:20. I'd be happy to entertain that. So let's go right into our member success here. This is really for our Interact Club. I really want to congratulate them for another great event. For those who don't know, Interact is Rotary for high school students, and we sponsor an Interact Club at Northside College Prep. They did a Gather for Good event with Rise Against Hunger on May 12th. They organized a virtual all-school event at Northside in collaboration with Rise Against Hunger, basically to end hunger through nourishing lives, empowering communities, and responding to emergencies. And so they learned about the mission of this organization and were given some resources to continue their work. And I think it sounds like over 300 people participated in a fun trivia game about food insecurity and international service. And we'll see if we can help support their efforts on that as well. I also want to thank volunteers who came out to help with Job 1 training. Myself, Lisa Russ, Jenny Fawbush, Rotaractors Nick Latimer, Wynant Charles, and Donner Call, and also a few non-members, Sherilyn Shaw and Roberta Cohen. So big shout out to all those folks who helped jump in and support our volunteers, support our organization as volunteers. And speaking of volunteers, we do have a volunteer opportunity coming up, a District Day of Wellness and Service, and that's a river kayak cleanup on May 23rd from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. We've reserved some tandem kayaks, so we'll try to match experienced and novice kayakers together. So don't worry if you've never kayaked before. Kayak Chicago will provide gloves and bags. If there's other things you need, a grabber or net, you'll have to bring those yourself. And Rotary One will provide lunch. Technically, registration is closed, and we've told the folks at Kayak Chicago how many kayaks we need, but do email the office if you're still interested, because we might be able to still slot you in. There's also a event going on May 29th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. You may remember January 2020, we did this Haiti event led by our member Bernard Groth, basically sewing miscellaneous pieces of fabric together to create clothes for kids in Haiti. And it's time to kind of reevaluate where we're at with that, because there was a lot of material still left over. So we're going to need to inventory where we are at on May 29th. I think we only need maybe one or two Rotary volunteers to help with that. We already have a few people who are going to be assisting with that effort, but it's pretty easy. It's really sorting, QA/QC, that sort of thing. So it'll probably be at the Union League Club of Chicago, but we're still working on a space. Feel free to email Bernard directly if you're interested in helping out with that. That information is in the gyrator, and it should also be, I think we can put Bernard's email into the chat box as well. We have Rotary Means Business coming up. Rotary Means Business is really a great way to take your Rotary membership to the next level. Really want to point that out to Gregor and our other new members who are on with us here today. It's really just focusing on the business networking aspect of Rotary, something that we also don't want to forget about, except this Rotary Means Business is across the whole district. Actually, it's across 2 districts. And sometimes we meet up with folks from other districts as well. So what does that mean? 2 districts here in Chicago? Well, we're talking really about 130 or so Rotary clubs that can participate in that. So it's really sort of expanding your professional reach beyond just the Rotary Club of Chicago. There are lots of other ways that you can expand your professional reach beyond just the Rotary Club of Chicago. There's an interesting event coming up on June 1st, an international event. Timo, would you like to take the floor and tell us a little bit about that event?
Yes, I'm happy to. I think I mentioned last week as well, the Intercountry Committee, Germany, Austria, and the United States is hosting Professor Bindernagel. He's the former U.S. ambassador to Germany, happened to be in East Berlin, the #1 U.S. diplomat in East Berlin when the wall came down. He's going to give us some perspective on how Germany and Europe evolved since, and how the relationship between the United States and Germany evolved. I think it'll be a very interesting topic. We'll have people from all over the world participating. It's been mentioned, the gyrator, sign up, it's free. Should be intellectually very stimulating. Thanks,
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Timo. Appreciate that. For those who don't know, Timo is our president nominee. So thank you very much for collaborating that effort. So another great event coming up is our district conference, and that's in early June, June 3rd through the 5th. I encourage you to register now. I just want to take a moment to tell you about some of the great stuff that's going on with the district conference. It's not all just Rotary administrative minutia. There's a lot of really interesting programs as part of this, and you can get engaged so easily just from the comfort of your own home this year. On June 3rd, the conference takes place in the evening. It's all about telling our stories. So you get to see and hear how clubs in our district have made a difference this year with their various service projects. On June 4th, it's Club and District Awards Night. But the great thing about the program on June 4th is that our old friend, Harold Green, you may remember, he's a friend of David Hirsch. David brought him in as a speaker last summer, spoken word artist. He's going to be there as a keynote speaker on June 4th. And you see that here before you. And then June 5th, the actual annual meeting, business portion of the meeting itself and the future of Rotary. No cost to attend. Should be a lot of fun. Pop in and out whenever you're available. And that's at the district level. Our district rolls up, of course, into Rotary International. And Rotary International's convention is June 12th through the 16th. Virtual this year. Registration is might still be at the early bird rate of $49. Don't quote me on that. Otherwise, it's $65. But you get to meet 40 to 60,000 of your closest Rotary friends online. So please check it out. Again, it's the sort of thing that goes on over multiple days. And because it's virtual, you can pop in and out to see the things and the events that are of most interest to you. We have also, as we have in many years in the past, supported the Illinois Medical District, the IMD Guest House, for family members who are visiting sick relatives here in the Illinois Medical District. And we've supported them via their golf outing, which is on Wednesday, May 19th. We're sponsoring a hole there to support the many projects that they do, the many services they provide. So if you want to show up and go golfing at Seven Bridges in Woodridge, we can put the link. The link is there already in the chat box. It's also in the gyrator. I'm sure it'll be a good time. Looks like the weather is getting nicer. May 19th is tomorrow, isn't it? So hopefully the weather will be nice tomorrow then, and I hope you can go out and get a little golfing in. And then finally, yet another service project that we have supported along with a variety of other Rotary clubs here in Chicago is something called MC School. Speaking of spoken word, it's using spoken word as a form of expression, really to help build peace and community. And the students over at MC School have been working hard despite the challenges of the last 14 months. And they're finally at a point to have a graduation ceremony, as it were. So this is something that our club has supported financially. So I hope that for those of you who are not going golfing tomorrow, you might be able to attend their graduation ceremony. It is at 7 p.m. tomorrow at the First Unitarian Church of Chicago at 5650 South Woodlawn Avenue. And if you can't make that in-person graduation ceremony, they're having a special Zoom call just with Rotarians, in fact, on Friday, May 21st from 7 to 9 p.m. And those Zoom call details will be coming soon. If you have questions, reach out to past District Governor Osei, and we can share that information with you as well. And of course, as always, we have a lot of great meetings of our own coming up. The committee meetings, always on the calendar. I encourage people to, especially our new members, to check out some of our committee meetings. We could definitely use more folks in our PR and marketing committee if that's something that you're interested in. We have our roundtable. We were talking earlier that Gregor is looking forward to meeting in person. Well, at least at the moment, our outlet for that is the Friday roundtable. It's a great casual way to network with your favorite Rotarians. We have people showing up anytime between noon and 12:30 on Fridays. We have a table reserved on the 4th floor of the Union League Club. Please stop on by. May 25th, our program, that's next Tuesday, U.S. Senator Tammy Duckworth. Should be a fantastic program. I look forward to seeing you all there. June 1st is an evening program, Rotary After Work. It is our Sister Cities series with Busan, Korea. And with that, we get to move on to our four-way test, as we always do. And I will ask our guest Rotarian from Ukraine, Irina, to read for us the four-way test of the things we think, say, or do.
The four-way test of the things we think, say, or do. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all considerate? Will it build goodwill or better friendships? And the last one, will it be beneficial to all considerate?
All right, perfect. Thank you so much, Irina. Thank you so much to all of our guests and members here today. And with that, meeting adjourned.